met Annabelle Smithson through, she contacted me to see if I would do an interview on her YouTube channel, which is Annabelle's Awareness. And she talks a lot about carnivore diet, and all kinds of healing kinds of things. And she's also involved in a Limbic training. It's a community of gut brain healing community called Wired for Healing. And so she reached out to me to see if I would do an interview on her YouTube channel, and I did, and we got to talking, and I just love Annabelle. She is like a breath of fresh air. She's a young adult that has done so much for her own healing. So I invited her onto the Nurse Soul podcast so that we could hear from her about her journey, and I think it's so inspiring. She also talks a little bit about Wired for Healing, which is helpful for any adult that is working on healing their gut brain. So I hope that you enjoy listening to this episode with Annabelle as much as I enjoyed talking to Annabelle. Yay, Annabelle, I'm so excited to talk to you. Welcome to the Nurse Soul podcast.
Hey, thank you. I'm so excited to talk to you, and I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah, so what time of day is it there? Looks like
It is 3 p.m. here.
Yeah. Looks like a gorgeous place to be sitting. So
Yeah, yeah, near the sun.
yes, of course. Yeah, I just opened the window, so hopefully we don't get birds chirping in the window here in a minute, but we'll see. So I wanted to just start by saying I love all of your content. I love you're educating people, and I love that you're much younger than I am, and you're helping younger people and older people, but we're all in the same boat together. And I just think that is amazing that we're all different ages doing this.
Yeah, yeah, thanks. I mean, definitely, I feel like this whole kind of quantum biology and EMFs and grounding and light work, all of this is starting to reach down into people my age, kind of, or at least I'm trying to get it there. But I know that a lot of people, even within kind of keto and carnivore communities, are getting into this stuff.
Yes, and that's kind of exciting. It's about time, right? Like,
Yeah.
it just took us all a little bit. But so tell me about your health journey. Like, how did you end up really going after optimal health? Not just like normal health, but like you were after optimal health.
Yeah, because I was really sick. I mean, I always say the same thing, but people will say that, if you're young, you can get away with whatever, but that's not true. And I just think that if you start younger, maybe you can just prevent more and you can maybe kind of set yourself up a little bit better. But I definitely didn't come out of a sad diet or standard American diet or kind of that lifestyle in a clean way. I came out really broken. I had pre-diabetes, my blood sugar was out of control. I was having panic attacks on a daily basis, multiple times a day. I had insomnia, I had severe acne, really bad PMS, any kind of hormonal issue you could think of. My thyroid was not good. I was really puffy and inflamed. My face was like a moon, like a big round puffy ball. It was really bad. And I hated myself. I hated the way I looked and felt, and I knew that there had to be something that I could do. It can't just be that this is it, and I'm doomed like this. And having had a strep throat infection, having had staph infections, having been on antibiotics that really damaged my gut, I could feel it. I mean, I was so depressed when I was on them, and just kind of the medical mainstream kind of medical industry really let me down, like it does with most people in the end. And I wouldn't have changed if it wasn't for my coach. So when I moved to London, I met a coach. He was a personal trainer. He actually had been mentored by Charles Poliquin, and he taught me how to eat and how to live. And suddenly everything changed. And because the way I looked changed, the way my brain was thinking changed, and my entire life changed, my acne disappeared in like a week. And this is acne that I've been battling for about 5 to 7 years and taking different medications for. And little did I know that if I just changed my diet, it would disappear. Didn't have PMS. I began to lose a lot of inflammation. I wasn't puffy anymore. I was sleeping really well. Everything did a 360, and it just made me want to know more, because I realized that we've been lied to so much. I want to know what else is out there. What else are they not telling us? And that took me down all of these rabbit holes. And that's kind of where I am now. But
Yeah.
I've been through a lot since then in terms of, different kinds of stresses and traumas. I feel like we've all been through a lot within the last 4 years, unnecessarily as well, to that matter. And it has affected us. And that's kind of taken me down more of the psychology aspect of things and really looking after the brain. And that's why Scott Pym and I have launched this online community, Wired for Healing, which is basically for those who are already doing everything right, like we were, who still need to just work on the brain, because that's something that they've kind of overlooked potentially, and work on the nervous system.
Yeah. Yeah. And I want to get all into that because the limbic training is amazing. And the fact that you figured that out, I think we all get here eventually. When you're after optimal health, eventually you find yourself really going, what is this quantum biology thing? And how can I incorporate more of that? But it sounds like you started more with food and lifestyle. How old were you when you found this coach when you moved to London?
I was 20, so this was
Yeah.
4.5 years ago. So I've been doing this for a long time, and
Yeah.
I've been sticking to it. I haven't kind of like fallen off the wagon or had moments. I mean, I did have these kind of planned treat meals in the beginning, but I've completely cut those out. And now I just eat whatever is, seasonal, appropriate, nature given, and mostly meat. So yeah, the nutrition did a lot for me in the beginning. But
Yeah.
after 2020, I had to do more because I was quite traumatized by a few things that had happened. And then this last summer, I was exposed to mold and got severely kind of ill from that. So I had to really work on my brain. I knew that was the only way out, because the nutrition hadn't changed, but my body wasn't responding. It just was really stressed, under severe and intense stress. So I had to look to other things now.
Yeah, and I think so the nutrition did so much for me. And then when my 17-year-old, at the time 16-year-old, was diagnosed with a chronic illness, and the diet was only, I mean, minimally helpful, like you start to realize the nervous system, like our emotions are running the show. And so if you've got trauma, and who doesn't, I don't really know anybody at this
Yeah.
point who doesn't have some kind of trauma. It doesn't mean that it has to be, big car accidents, physical abuse, that kind of thing. It could be other kinds of traumas that are piling up and your system is really stressed. And so now your immune system is reacting, everything is acting up, and then you could have something like mold exposure, something else, and it just keeps piling on. So yeah, and I think, for people, the nutrition piece is still really important, because you talk about, like, first start with your mind, like you've got to help your mind, and then you've also got to worry about what's on your plate. Like we have
I
to
also
deal with
think, yeah, and you know what? I think belief actually
that.
plays the biggest role in it, because in the beginning, I mean, I believed every single thing my coach told me, and I did everything by the book, and I knew this would get me results, and I could see them happening, which again kind of made my belief stronger. And the more you believe in what you're doing, the more you're going to want to keep going, and the more you're going to be looking for the positives and the results, rather than trying to stray away from it or look to the negatives. And then you're already building those positive neuro pathways.
True. You're creating new neural pathways, which is the key. So at the time, were you eating carnivore? Was your coach? Okay, so you
No, actually, not no. So this was more like paleo. This was
yeah.
basically like between keto, paleo. So no kind of grains or carbs, or it was kind of like limited berries, activated nuts, avocado, greens, meat, fish, all good quality. Obviously not cooking with vegetable oils, and only cooking with things like ghee and coconut oil, and like a very kind of standard anti-inflammatory paleo. But then when my nervous system took a hit, that's when I had to do kind of more dietary interventions. I went towards carnivore. I'd already found it, but I had to stick to it. Otherwise, I just knew that nothing would work for me. And I think it saved my life, actually, the carnivore diet at that stage, in many ways. So I owe a lot to it. And that's why I really value the community. But at the same time, after that, even though the carnivore diet was keeping me okay, and it was alleviating a lot of the traumatic kind of response symptoms I was having,
Yes.
it wasn't allowing me to progress any further. It was just keeping me in an okay state. And to actually progress further and kind of go back to where I was before, which was actually probably the best health I had before I had my kind of traumatic responses, I had to really work on the brain. And yeah, I didn't know what to do though. That's the thing.
Yeah.
I knew about nutrition, but you don't know where to go to retrain your brain, and who do you trust? Because when you search for, psychologists and therapists, how do you know they're going to be the one? And it's a lot to invest, and I think people are kind of weary. They don't know where to get help from, and I was lucky in the sense that my coach was kind of more like a life coach, but nobody can get you through those traumatic experiences besides you, really. And you have to know where to look for help, which is why we want to grow and make this thing more accessible. Because the standard person doing a Google search for therapists, they're not going to come across you or Jack Cruz or any of that stuff. But little do they know that, if you go and look at the sunrise and sunset every day, that can already start to calm down your stress response. But nobody's educated in that.
Right. Well, I went to school I got 4 degrees in psychology and clinical mental health counseling. No one ever told me that sun and light in your light environment. I didn't learn that until I was in my 50s. So, I'm so grateful that the information is out there and that we're all educating people and helping people understand more about circadian rhythms and how important that piece is, because I was teaching gut health for years. I was teaching gut health from more of a nutrition and mental health perspective, but had no idea that it's a circadian rhythms issue. Leaky gut is a circadian rhythms issue. And so, yeah, food can make a big difference, especially when you cut out the junk stuff and when you educate yourself. I too, carnivore, I feel like really saved me. So I'm forever grateful. But then, like you, I was like, well, wait, could I feel even better? Like, what else could I do? And when you're after optimal health, you just keep digging. And so that's exciting. And it sounds like you've made your way to the mitochondrial health, and now you're
Yeah.
right. So we all start going, well, wait, does my mitochondria think I'm in winter all the time if I never have any seasonal plants? And so you start to figure out what your body can tolerate and then the sun and your light environment is so important, right? It's just huge.
Yeah. Yeah, the light environment. And I notice I've become so much more sensitive, but not in a negative way. Just
Yeah.
I feel like my cells are so receptive and I can almost feel the communication happening. It's so nice. I just know what it's doing to me when I go outside and when I get grounded and when I'm seeing light at certain times of the day, I can just feel the benefits immediately.
Yeah, me too. Annabelle, do you think it's important for people to know why they're doing that? Like to understand the different types of light that is available at different times? Or do you think it really just doesn't matter? They just need to go outside more?
I think if you're, I don't know, that's a good question, but the way I see it is that you don't really need to look for kind of complicated answers. I mean, you can, but it's just literally trust nature. That's literally all it comes down to, is as long as you're close to nature and living in line with it, you're not going to go wrong. But if you want to, time it and fit it around your schedule, yeah, obviously go for gold and do what you can and try and hack it so that it fits into your daily routine. But I guess the key really just for people who want to have it as simple as possible is just do the best you can, and that means just being as close to nature as you can. That's what I would say to people.
For sure, 100%. And I had to actually get clear about, I had a little bit of, I don't know if I would call it resistance or something, but I had to get, I don't know the right words. So I'm just going to say I had to allow nature to heal me. Like I had to actually do some work there where I thought I was, somebody who liked nature and did some hiking and was outside. So I didn't realize that I wasn't actually allowing nature to heal me. I think maybe because I come from all this training of like humans, and I was real focused on us helping ourselves and not realizing we are nature. like, and that nature being in alignment with the environment that you're in, where your feet are currently planted, your natural environment, how important that is. So I had to do a little bit more work than I thought I would have around that. I don't know if
Yeah.
it was supernatural for you.
I have had times when I've been, especially kind of like in the winter when it's cold, a little bit more lazy with grounding because you just don't want to go and then I'll just go out there and count down and just think, okay, just try and do 5 minutes and then have my feet freezing. But that's probably kind of my only resistance to it.
Mhm.
Sometimes you do have work get in the way and life gets in the way, but
Yeah.
I guess yeah, just trying to do the best that I can and it isn't that easy. You're right. When you travel and stuff, you do have to kind of get in line with your environment again, and it does take a little while actually, at least for me.
Hmm. Yeah. And I love travel. Like I want to be where you are right now. And it takes me a solid day to recover from traveling. And it's quicker now because I immediately start trying to incorporate whatever's local, getting in the light, grounding. I call it earthing, you call it grounding. Same thing. We're putting our skin on
Yes.
the surface, as much of your skin as you can put on the earth surface for at least a little bit. And then I start, also I go straight to carnivore wherever I am because I know that works for me. And so I look for the animal sources of food that I know are going to be okay for me and then start trying to do some local foods. I don't know what your strategy is when you're having to move
Yeah,
about.
it's just trying to get light as much as possible in the day and yeah, obviously sunrise, sunset, and then I do the same. Carnival is always the safest, and for me, sourcing good quality is really important.
Yeah.
So kind of like the best that you can get from the animal foods, and then in the summer, obviously, I mean, I do find that in the summer, if I do have more plant foods, my body can deal with it much, much better. And I do think that that is related to obviously mitochondrial health, the sunlight, the deuterium, hence why fruit is seasonal and in the warmest seasons. So I don't mind having kind of here and there little bits of things that are not strict carnivore. Especially as I'm healing, it's interesting to see what my body kind of does with it and what I can tolerate. But most of the time I do stick to carnivore as like a baseline at least.
Yeah.
Um, so that's pretty much yeah my strategy, and then obviously trying to do all of I find the nighttime routine really important. So obviously
Yeah.
getting the red light and then the blue light blockers, and I do the Quinton isotonics nose spray. I do the mouth tape. I go really hard on the sleep.
I love it. I love it, love it. Yeah, the mouth tape is funky. I was talking to Terry Bennett, who's like a big educator in the quantum health, and we were talking about how sexy we look at bed with our mouth tape and our mask and our, the whole thing.
The nose strip as well.
Yeah, I don't actually do that one, but I do wear because my husband won't let me cover the windows completely. He likes to wake up to light, which is fine. So I wear the eye mask. And for people who
Okay.
are listening and didn't just see me do that with mask, I'm talking about an eye mask to keep it really dark because we want that melatonin. So yeah, the blue blockers, the nighttime routine is really huge. And when in your process did you figure that out? Pretty quickly, or did that take, were you already like down the mold treatment rabbit hole when you figured out the evening part?
Okay, so sleep has always been a massive priority for me. My coach was like, protect your sleep at all costs. But I wasn't doing I didn't know about blue light blocking. I didn't know about kind of the EMF stuff and circadian rhythm that much. I was taking magnesium and my diet was clean. So I would pass out very quickly and then wake up feeling refreshed, and my circadian rhythm kind of naturally aligned itself. But then the more that I learned, the more I just wanted to implement these other things. And now it's become so ingrained into me. I think it started a few years ago actually, so way before the mold treatment. I was already doing the kind of mouth tape and the eye mask and the blue light blocking glasses and the infrared lights. And yeah, I think it was probably after 2020 when I was trying to, go as biohacker as I could in all of my life.
Yeah, I love that. I love that you were already. So do you feel like that helped with the trauma and the mold since you already had a routine or not so
I
much?
wish I could answer that, but do you know what? I'll tell you the real thing that helped me the most with the trauma and the mold is being in a loving community. And that's not necessarily the online community we've got, but I moved back to the UK to help out a friend who's got a regenerative farm.
Yeah.
And that changed me completely, because suddenly I went from, being kind of alone, almost isolated in Estonia at home, to
Mhm.
actually having people around who I could laugh with and who could divide my sorrows and celebrate my successes, and people I could just talk to. And it made such a difference, and it has changed my personality, and it just makes everything so much easier. I think having human connection is so crucial. And obviously spending time outside and doing farm stuff is really good. And even when we do the milking, the cows have such a peaceful energy, and that is like meditation in some ways. But I just think that kind of real connection, and I think we're all craving that. And I think we were craving that before 2020, but I think now we kind of maybe crave it more on some level.
Absolutely. I love that you divide the sorrows, like to share the like it's that I love that image too. And I would have said, oh, because you're on a regenerative farm, so that must be what's doing it because of, but I love that we're talking about no, yes, that's great. And you're talking about a loving community. I don't think we are meant to do any of our healing alone. I don't think we maybe even can. We're meant to be companioned in life. We're social creatures. We need a tribe. And so if your tribe is yicky, um, I was gonna say a different word, but yicky works. Like if your tribe is all messed up and not loving and healthy, and I just think about like how many communities, like our teachers, so our kids are in schools where people are not healthy and don't know how to be healthy. Nobody's feeling like the love and the support. Nobody's sharing in sorrows and splitting and dividing our sorrows and celebrating the good. I mean, I think we're all trying, but I don't see a lot of that. And I'm excited to see more people moving in that direction. But I think a lot of us have lost our way. And so we've really got to find our way back.
Yeah, and I mean, I think ages ago they did say like it takes a village to raise your kids, and it's because everybody would help each other. And I was very lucky in my childhood that my neighbors were kind of like my family, and my friends and I, we would go bike riding down the street, and we would come back at, in the summer at 11 at night, even as a little 7-year old, and just be running around the streets and playing, and all the neighbors knew who you were, and you could go into your neighbors gardens and just take fruit off the tree and eat it. And it was kind of like the whole village was your family in a way, and everybody talked to each other and people cared. And now it feels in some ways that humanity is disappearing, and we don't have that anymore, and everything's become about health and safety and regulations, and don't do this, and this is bad, and being judged and criticized. And it's really sad. I was really lucky to be able to grow up that way. And I don't think it is just the farming, because if I was doing the regenerative farming and I didn't have people around me, I think I'd still be a little bit sad, because it would just be me by myself. But it's the whole thing about me walking into the kitchen in the morning and being greeted with a smile, and all of us sitting down and talking and laughing, and that is what life is.
Right. I completely agree. And I was just thinking about when my kids were little, I mean, we were in the city and we still had a very tight community. Like all the neighbors were like family and and we went to, yeah, so it doesn't have to necessarily be on a farm, is what we're saying, which is amazing. We've just got to make our way to nature and really start paying attention. And I really think people have got to understand light and food and their nervous system. So let's talk about the nervous system. And how did you get involved with the limbic training and all that you're doing?
All right. So my friend Scott Everson has been through one hell of a health journey. He was, I think it's benzodiazepines. He had benzo withdrawal. His doctor kind of really screwed him over in terms of putting him on the most harsh medication, and now he has to try and taper off. And the few times he's tried to do it, he nearly died, because that's how severe it is. And so he had spent thousands of dollars trying every single pill, potion, supplement out there, and it was just this one kind of glimmer of hope for him was the nervous system, where he got introduced and somebody mentioned to him, have you worked on your brain? And then he thought about it, and he decided to dive deep into kind of the brain, and he learned about the limbic system, and that is the thing that saved his life, as well as obviously nutrition. It was kind of similar to me. It was keeping him stable, but it wasn't allowing him to progress and actually achieve his dreams and be at optimal health, because our nervous systems and our brains, they do get stuck in these patterns, and we have to kind of get them out of it. So after the mold, I was good friends with Scott. We talked a lot, and I said to him that I've got mold poisoning. What do I do? And he said, you have to retrain your limbic system. And so I kind of also did a deep dive into it. And then he kind of put the idea to me that, okay, why don't we start a limbic system training community? Because he'd seen some online and some that he joined. And he said, they're all way overpriced. They were all at least $200 a month. Now, this was for like one class a week or every 2 weeks. And he said, nobody's going to heal by doing one class a week. And he was like, we need the community, but, you know, we need it regularly, like a real community. And I was 100% on board because I felt the same. I didn't want to do this alone. And I felt like I needed the support, and I needed real friends who understood and also wanted to be the, you know, their best selves. So we kind of started this thing, and then we got Pim. She is, I don't know if you know Bart K, his partner. She's got her own YouTube channel. She does coaching for food addiction and carb addiction. So she understands the brain very well, and she understands psychology. So we got her on board, and now it's kind of the three of us, Bart K being a partner, and we've got coaches, and we do 4 to 5 classes a week. We've got guest speakers. We have a really tight-knit community, buddy up systems, a constant homework, constant feedback, 20-minute calls for people for free as part of the community, so they can kind of like give us feedback or share their worries. It's basically designed for everybody to succeed and be able to heal, because when Scott and I did these programs and kind of did a deep dive into this, we realized that you might do a course or a program, but then you're kind of left to your own devices after that, and you really need the continuous kind of support. Otherwise, you're just not going to do it. It's very difficult. And when you're already going through stuff, it's hard to motivate yourself as it is. So that kind of self-leadership aspect, we're also trying to incorporate into it. And that's kind of been a recent thing. We launched it at the beginning of March, but we did it because we know that it's needed out there. And we knew as well that there were people out there who were doing everything right, and they just weren't seeing the results that they wanted anymore. Maybe they did at some stage, maybe they never did, but essentially we knew that they needed more help, and we would kind of be that support group that says, okay, let's work on your brain, let's start believing, let's start doing things a bit differently, let's evaluate how you're living your life, and let's really do a deep dive into everything, and try and like get your, I guess, neurotransmitters back to where they belong.
Right. Yeah. Get your brain, get some new neural pathways going too, but just to educate people on what that even looks like. And I think you're exactly right. I think people can learn, and they can take a course, or they can do some limbic retraining, some kind of program. But if you don't have the ongoing support, because life is going to go up and down and round, and I am convinced that if you're not supporting your nervous system, and there are so many ways to do that, which we know, right? There's so many ways, so you can pick and choose what works for you. But if you're not supporting your nervous system, you're not going to reach optimal health. You may have some improvement, which is great, and some people may be okay with just like where they are. Like, I'm only willing to do certain things, and this is it. But for the people who are really after optimal health, you have got to find the ways to support your nervous system. So, and I'm really, because I went, from clinical mental health, and then went way out into nutrition and doing all the quantum health. And here we are back again with really the basics of, we've got to help your brain and your nervous system. And I would say the fascia, right? Like this whole connective tissue, all of this quantum communication that's going on. So you're supporting all of that. And that's going to be with your food, your lifestyle, and your people. You've got to have the people. We've got to have community. And I don't know, I guess that shouldn't be a surprise, but I was like, oh, here we are again. And I have forever, as long as I've been in the field, tried to avoid emotions. Like, do we really have to? I've always like thoughts, and I'm like, thoughts and behaviors, thoughts and behaviors. I was really attracted to cognitive behavioral type therapies, working with teenagers and kids. And I did play therapy, and play therapy is amazing for children, and especially for trauma and in the nervous system. And so it all kind of worked out, but I didn't have to look at my own emotions. And then at some point in my career, I was like, it really, emotions are driving, that they're running the whole show. They're driving everything. So you have got to at least get curious about your emotions and start understanding where they are trying to tell you to go. So,
Yeah, and what's interesting as well is, so I think it's in the Bible, it says that the sins of your forefathers last 4 generations. But what that essentially means is that your mitochondria, or your cells, the easy water that they store, can carry information back from 4 generations ago. So essentially, your great great grandparents, if they experienced any kind of trauma or whatever emotions they might have been going through, some of that can still be imprinted into you, as part of your DNA, but you can rewire that, you can recode it to be whatever it is you. And that's the kind of beauty of it. And this is why I think everybody should be interested and fascinated, because you really are limitless. You can be anything you want to be, as long as you know how to do that.
yeah. So, do you want to talk a little bit more about how to do that?
Yeah, so what we focus on a lot in the community are things just like the way that we speak to ourselves, affirmations, we do visualizations, we teach people how to do proper visualizations. So we also do things like meditation. We've got a coach who does kind of light movement work. Squats classes go a lot into kind of visualizations and meditations, and very calming. And then Pim and I do a lot of kind of brain retraining work and like the groundwork. So going into things like neuro-linguistic programming, hypnotherapy, different kinds of therapy models, and proper kind of brain rewiring tactics and techniques, and lifestyle and environment, the physical stuff as well. We tend to kind of focus on that a little bit less, although we do highlight the importance of it, just because we want this to really be about the brain. So this is kind of the ultimate brain health community. But there are so many different ways to do it. And the way that I see it is that you've got the brain, which is the hardware, so kind of the physical stuff. You've got the nutrition and the environment and the grounding and the sleep, so the physical brain health that needs to be focused on. Then you've got the mind, which is what we focus on a lot. So essentially the mind work in terms of emotions, trauma, your nervous system, how well regulated you are, how you're thinking, how you're processing your environment. And then the other thing that we focus on a lot, the third one, would be the networking. So what we talked about, so purpose, meaning, your soul, your desires, what you want to do in this life, so those kind of things. And we want to kind of have that all together, because that's what it is really, the hardware, the software, and the network, almost as if you kind of can become this supercomputer.
Right, exactly. Yeah, I was going to ask, like, so where do you think soul, where's the spirit? So you added, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, it's mind, body, and soul, and it's
Yeah,
separate. I don't know about in the UK, but in the United States, we tend to separate it out, like the mind and then the body and the soul, and it's
yeah.
very, I think English is one of the only languages that does separate it. The mind, body, soul is
Oh,
typically,
interesting.
like, from a treatment perspective, from a working on yourself perspective, you can break it into parts so that you can, so it's manageable. I think that's helpful for people, but
Yeah.
ultimately it's all, we want everything in harmony. So, it's not broken into parts like that. There's,
No, yeah, exactly. So yeah, you want to get the foundations right first, of course. So the
right.
physical stuff, and then you can start working on, because when I was 18 and I was having panic attacks and I was lost, I didn't know what my purpose was, because I was lost. My brain wasn't healthy physically. And then as soon as you get your brain healthy, everything kind of starts to open up. Your brain is clear, you can think, you can dream, you can act on your desires, you can do anything, but you have to be healthy.
Right. Yeah, and I think, sometimes people may have some kind of, we might call it a spiritual awakening, or they might go in the opposite direction where they have something happen that just wakes them up to more of
Yeah.
the soul spirit side of things. and then they work on physically getting healthy. I don't think it even matters where you start, but I do appreciate that at some point you've got to get the actual physical hardware figured out, and then you've got to
Yeah.
work on the networking and then the neural networks and the whole system networking. That's going to be really important piece too. So yeah, well, this is, I mean, it's really exciting. So are you all you're doing that remotely, so you are everywhere,
Yeah,
everybody's everywhere?
we're everywhere. So Scott is in Florida, Pim is in New
He's
Zealand,
near
I'm in
me,
the
actually.
UK.
Scott
Oh
is near
yes,
me.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it's amazing. And so I think one of our coaches, Logan, she's in Canada. So yeah, we're all over. But most of our classes are at 12 p.m. EST. We have guest speakers who come on at different times. I think we might have a weekend class as well at some point. So there might be 1 or 2 classes that are at different times. PIMS is at 7 p.m. EST. But yeah, it's about 4 to 5 classes a week. So obviously you're getting a lot of value and you're never going to be left alone. And I think that's the most important thing. Like, you're going to be encouraged because you want to be immersed into a community. When you're physically at school or at work, you're immersed, and we want to recreate that. So that's why we kind of throw so much out there.
I think that's amazing. And how, at this point, how much is it for people to get in?
So it's $75 a month.
Mhm.
And if you go through an affiliate code, you can get 10% off your first month your first month of joining. And then after that, it's $75 a month.
Okay, so I need to get the affiliate code and put it on my website
Yeah,
so everybody
yeah,
can get a discount. Yeah, we'll get that. We'll get that together. We'll do that for people so that they can get the discount and get started. And
yeah.
all ages, right?
All ages. And I get asked a lot, who is this for? And although we kind of do aim at, obviously it began for people trying to heal from chronic illness because that's what we associate the limbic system with, but this is also for people in terms of personal development and truly finding optimal health. And all ages, anybody with a brain who wants to improve their brain.
Yeah, anybody who has a brain. Yeah, I would imagine. I mean, do you actually have any teenagers though? It's all adults, right?
No, it's all adults at the
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah. I mean, I think we need to help our teens. I just don't think they need their own sort of separate community, I feel like. And
Yeah.
I would love to see more teens get involved with helping their brain on every level.
Yeah, that would be amazing. That might be someone that I can target, is that kind of demographic. I can try.
Maybe. I don't know if, right, they would listen to you, but I don't know if they're ready to,
Yeah. Oh,
because
I know.
you had to feel really bad and feel absolutely lost. And I think that's, all of us have a place, that's where we are. We're lost and then we're found. And then we start on the journey. And here we go. And so some people might call that like the answering of the call. And I just want to say, does the call need to feel awful? Like, come on, can we not? But I don't think we would listen if we weren't in pain.
No, we wouldn't, because I think that you have to reach a certain stage of being so uncomfortable and in so much pain that you have to take action. Because if you're even a little bit content and kind of in this lull and maybe this dull kind of mild discomfort, you're not going to take action. It's only when it's painful enough that's when you have to take action.
Right. So hopefully people will not wait till they're in pain. They'll be motivated.
Yeah,
Wait, I want optimal health now. I don't want to wait till I'm in pain and feel awful. And so that would be nice.
that would be nice.
But yeah, so anybody, adult, any age that has a brain can be helped. That's exciting.
Yeah, yeah.
Love that. Yeah, I think Scott and I are going to try and get together. So, and maybe even do a
Nice.
live chat. Yeah, so that'll be fun. I mean, he is maybe 30 minutes away from me.
Wow. Oh, that would be amazing.
I know. You'll have to come
And
visit.
then you can have the real community that we're talking about, physical.
Oh, I know. Wouldn't that be great? That would be amazing. So, yeah. So for you, what your daily routine right now, what really nourishes your mind, body, soul?
Okay, so listening to audios, reading books, and making sure that I always see sunrise and sunset and spend as much time as possible outside. Those are the things that really help me.
Yep. Those are the main things. And then having love the love and the
Yeah,
community and the cows.
love community.
I love
Yeah.
to see you out with the cows. That's fun. So do you think you'll stay there? Is the plan to stay
So
where you
I think I'm gonna see. I'm gonna be away for a little bit, and then I'll come back and forth. But yeah, I've got some plans of my own, some things kind of up my sleeve that I want to get done and start with, and we'll see. This will always be a really important part of my life. And Farmer John, so the farm that I work at is called Dora's Dairy, and he's great. He's kind of like family now, so I can always come back and help.
I love that. Where are you?
So at the moment in the UK, I'm in a place called Wiltshire, which is like properly like the countryside.
Yeah. I just know I love the countryside of England. I don't know where I was when I
Yeah,
was driving around in there, but yeah, but that's great. So you'll have to come visit us in the United States though.
yeah. I mean, my cousins live in Florida, so I'd love to.
Yeah, that would be great. That would be awesome. I so love talking to you. I love that you're such an inspiration in the world, and the work that you're doing is so important. And I'm really excited to learn more about it, to be involved. We'll get it on my website so people can find you and get started and get the help that they need, because that's
Oh, thank you
huge.
so much. That means a lot.
Yeah. And I'll come visit you.
Yeah,
I'm always happy to come to the UK. So
yeah, definitely.